You don't know how amazing you are. You might not see it in the mirror, but ooh, it's never been clearer to me.
Welcome to the Act Out Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Thomas. Before we begin, I need you to give a 5-star review. The absolute best way to help us out is to share. So share this with your friends, your family. Actually, let's pretend this is like one of those chain emails from the 90s. And please send this to 15 friends or you will have 15 years bad luck. The absolute favorite thing for me are constructive compliments. Please feel free to leave those in a comment down below. For any complaints, please send that to the Catholic Church. And remember, you spell Adam, L-E-O. Today's episode comes to you from Atlanta, Georgia. We'll be speaking with Gena Somra. Yes, this is episode 4, but kind of like George Lucas, this is the series premiere. Gina and I actually talked before I had ever sat down with anyone else. So you get to see like newborn podcaster Adam this time around, instead of the big baby podcaster that sits before you today. Gina and I discussed a lot of things. She's worked at CNN for 25 years as a producer. She talks about how she learned Russian and why you shouldn't trust your professor's friends for any kind of rooming advice. And now, after her years in production, she's going in the metaphysical route. We learned that Reiki actually has absolutely nothing to do with farming. I was a little surprised. But it's very cool to see her, and I hope you enjoy it. Let's roll the tape. Gina.
Adam.
Thank you so much for agreeing to come on today.
It's my pleasure.
And this is the very first time that we're rolling at all. We have not done this before. We haven't screwed up or anything. And so I'm really excited to see how this goes.
Me too. It's my honor to be here.
How did I get you to agree to be on this podcast?
You and Kaylin are just such wonderful people. And you said, hey, will you come talk to Adam? And I said, sure.
Dang, I didn't realize it would be that easy. I thought we'd have to give you like a sales pitch or something.
No.
At CNN for a while, right?
I was at CNN for more than 2 decades, 25 years. 25 years.
How does one get a job at CNN?
Well, in my case, it's not the typical path. I didn't go to journalism school. So I was studying Russian in college. I was actually a theater major. And you
you were studying Russian and being a theater major?
Yes.
Were you going to go like specifically
into
Dostoevsky?
No. Like I was a theater major and you had to have a language, and my siblings had all studied Spanish, French, and the others, and they were like really, really smart and like really good at things, and I was the baby, and I was like, I want to go as far away from, being compared, because they're awesome, but I wanted to be my own person. And so there was Russian and Swahili were the 2 languages left. And so Russian sounded like, okay,
I was just about to say you made the wrong choice. Swahili? Are you kidding
Swahili.
me?
I just thought, I'm old, Adam.
Oh, okay.
I'm old. So like.
I never would have guessed that.
It's,
like 25 tops.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. But I am of the generation that grew up in the Cold War. And, so Russian seemed like a fallback great job, prospect, State Department or something. It just so happened by the time I graduated, the Berlin Wall had fallen, the end of communism, sort of. I mean, not really, but
Ronald Reagan and Sylvester Stallone ended communism.
Yes,
and that's a fact. Yeah.
So there was no more Soviet Union. It was a little bit of bad timing on my part, I guess I'd say. So yeah, I was a theater major and I was studying that, and then doing theater and Russian was too hard, because they both required a lot of time. And at the time, like, I'd never learned another language, and Russian has a completely different alphabet, and it has, like, certain letters in their alphabet are the same letters in our alphabet, but they have different sounds. So, like, a P is an R, and, like, an M can be a T. So it was a lot for my little brain to handle.
They're always shady over there.
Stop it. So I had to make a decision between theater and that. And how much of my personal story do you want?
I am intrigued by all this. If I get bored, I'll tell you.
Also, I had my freshman year of college been quite the little partier in the beginning of the year.
I never would have guessed that.
And there was a time that I came to class. I had rolled in after a particularly, fun night. And I think I just rolled into my 7:50 a.m. class the next day from the night before, as you do in college. I mean, come on.
I didn't. I would have skipped that class. Are you kidding me? 7:50?
So I remember the professor throwing the paper. I distinctly remember this. There's things in your life that are the defining moments of your life. This is one of them. So she throws the paper on my desk, and it's an F. And she says, it's a shame you don't ever come to my class sober, because if you did, you might do really well. You have an ear for this language, and it's a shame you don't care about, doing a good job.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, that's a challenge. She just threw that down, so I'm going to get an A in her class,
Yeah.
So I had an F, and I decided I was going to get an A, so I decided, So I started going to office hours, kind of straightened up my act a little bit. That was one of the moments. There were some others that led me to believe that kind of life was not for me. Mm-hmm. And so I had to choose between theater and Russian after a certain time, and Russian seemed more of the better choice for the type of lifestyle that I was then leading. And so I started studying Russian. This is a very long way to get to CNN, but by the way, it does have a point. So I traveled to Russia because my professor said, you really need to live there to speak the language. And I got there, and the family that I was supposed to live with, I was supposed to pay them $15 a day, and that would include all meals. And at the time, that would have been a good amount to pay a family, and they were friends of my professor. I get there, and my parents, we were not well off, we were like middle class. So, they had enough to send me, but there was a certain amount that they had given me. And I get there, and they say, you need to pay us $25 a day, and that doesn't include any of your meals. Or we can take you to the college dormitory, and you can pay them $15 a day with breakfast. And I remember going, okay, I don't have enough money for the whole time living here, and I was a little panicked. But back then, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have things like that, so I ran into the bathroom, and I had a Let's Go Europe book. And I was like, I am not going to let these people see me cry. They're trying to extort money from me. What am I going to do? And there was a youth hostel that was $10 a day. And I was like, okay, I can make, the money work if I can go there. So I came out of the bathroom, and I said, take me here. And they're like, oh, no, you can pay us, $15 a day with all meals. And at that point, I was like, no, take me here, So they dropped me off at the youth hostel. And I was like, oh, my God, what am I going to do? But through the youth hostel, I met some people. I went to an international church service. A family took me in that was a lovely family. And also one of the people there worked for the Goodwill Games. And they were like, they might need some volunteers if you want to come. And I'm like, oh, okay. Everything I did was just kind of like, oh, okay, I'll go. That's kind of the story of my life. Okay, I'll just go over here.
Well, seemed to pan out, though.
Yeah. And so I go, and the first day that I'm there, they had some things like, they didn't have, this is very weird, they did not have someone that was a Russian translator between the local staff and the Goodwill Game staff, which maybe they were coming later, I don't know. But they had some particular problem with something, and I translated for them. And the lady was like, oh, stay right here. And she came back. She's like, I can't give you much, but I can pay you $25 a day, if you could be my assistant. I'm like, okay. Sure. So I worked for her, and then that was an amazing experience. And then years later, I was in Atlanta, and the Olympics were coming. And somebody from the Goodwill Games remembered me and hired me for NBC for the Olympics. And so I was like, wow, maybe this journalism thing isn't so bad after all. And then my very best friend's father was doing business in Russia, and he passed my resume off to someone at CNN, and that's how I got the first interview I had to go through. the various interview process. So it's a very long story of telling you how I got to CNN, but...
Well, the moral of that story, I think, is that your professor needed to make better friends. They were dicks.
Oh, those, yes, they were. But you have to understand, it was like a very bad time for professors. I look at it now as an adult. As a kid, I was very upset.
Yeah.
But as an adult, you look at it as like nobody was making any money. There was, rampant mafia, professors weren't getting paid, artists weren't getting paid, the military was not getting paid. So, I mean, the situation was a bit more dire probably for them, and they probably thought, well, she's here. But yes, it was quite shocking.
How was like interviewing with CNN? Did they throw you any, like, if you were shrunken down to the size of a nickel and you were at the bottom of a blender, how would you get up or anything like that?
No, I don't. It's been so long ago. I don't remember really that interview. I just remember, like, I started at the very bottom, as a video journalist and worked my way up. And
I'm sorry, what's a video journalist?
well, I don't know if they even call them that anymore, but it was like basically the person that does the grunt work at CNN at the time. It was like somebody who rips scripts, someone who teleprompts, someone who does this for the floor director, so the people know they're on camera. So it was all the sort of gopher type of work.
I'm on camera. Okay.
Yeah. And that's where you started. They had a program. It was actually a really neat program that, they taught you everything. And I honestly think that was the best thing because I got to know the ins and outs of all the different departments. And, working your way up, I think, keeps you a little bit humble because you know where you came from. And, I worked my way up through to senior producer, supervising producer, executive producer for certain things. That wasn't officially my title, but I would executive produce.
Executive producer for certain things seems like an awesome title.
Well, I mean, it was like I was named executive producer on the different projects, but like my overall title, I think, was senior producer or senior supervising producer or senior editor. Like it changed over the years,
What are the different types of producers? Like I see it at the credits on the movie, produced by our executive producer. Like what do the different things, what do they produce? So,
I mean, documentary and journalism is more the background that I have. I think in film, the producers do much different things than they do in news. So the titles are different. I mean, my understanding is that the producers, in the overall film industry are more responsible for the managing of the money, the budgets, they have say over who's hired and different things like that. But there's different levels, and executive producers are like the financial backing is my understanding. But in the CNN world, there weren't directors, right, of a project. So the producer is kind of like the director. I mean, we have photojournalists, and, like they'd be called the director of photography in film, but in news it would be the photojournalist. And like it depends on the team, it depends on the project, how many people are involved and how many people are. You could have a small team of 3, you could have a team of 20. I mean, it just depended on how much money was allocated towards a project and, what you were trying to build as to what the team would look like. But generally speaking, the producer would be the person that would set the tone for. I mean, it's kind of hard to say because each situation is different. Like the reporters are very involved. A lot of times someone that's a photojournalist, is an amazing producer also. So it would just depend on the makeup of the team as to what your role was. Sometimes it was, arranging transport, making sure you got to certain locations on time. It would be, helping the reporter with the script if they needed. Sometimes they didn't need any help at all. Sometimes they didn't want your help. Sometimes they didn't like having a producer around.
Talents are notoriously fickle.
So, but it was a wonderful experience. It was, took me around the world. I got to make amazing friends all throughout the world and got to see places I never would have seen. I mean, I'm eternally grateful for the opportunity that I had there.
Where was the coolest place that you visited?
Coolest place? I mean, I loved going to Nepal. There are lots of cool places, but I really loved the people in Kathmandu. I loved the sort of the energy there, the essence there of humanity and honestly, I think the stories made the place, and that particular place, there was a story we did on a organization called Mighty Nepal. And the woman that ran that organization is probably one of the most amazing humans I've ever met. She was a former teacher. She had no money at a certain point, but saw all these girls being trafficked from Nepal into India and built an organization that works to save girls from human trafficking. And I mean, it was incredible when we went there. She's this tiny, tiny little lady, but she is like a force of nature. She had grown the organization from nothing to, there was a school for the kids that were born there. There was rehabilitation programs for the girls to learn a trade so they could get a job. There was like all these different things that were created to empower the women that they have rescued, as well as the teams that would go to the border and would go on raids to find the women. So I think I'm partial to Nepal just because that experience was like so incredible. I mean, if there's angels on earth, then Anuradha Kerala is one of them.
Yeah.
You know, so.
What, you said that was called Mighty Nepal?
Mighty, it's Maiti.
Oh, okay. So not like Mighty Mouse or whatever. It's like
It's Maiti, and then Nepal is their organization. And they're still going, and she's still going strong. And, you know, we actually made a CNN documentary about her that Demi Moore was the talent for.
Oh, okay.
So it was good to get her out there to that platform.
Did you go to Nepal like for that documentary, or did you like film with her and like, oh wow, this is a super interesting story we need to do? Like,
well, so there was a program that I think they still have called CNN Heroes. And that was a program where people nominated everyday people for doing extraordinary things. So this lady had been nominated for one of the hero positions. They would send teams and go and shoot like little 2 or 3 minute stories about the person and different things for their promos. And at the time, the executive producer of that was Kelly Flynn, who was an amazing, amazing person and really had faith in me. And she picked me to go to Nepal to do that shoot. And actually, I worked with my now partner in Dawnbreaker Films on that shoot. It was a very small shoot because, you know, it's just you're just going to pick up a 2-minute package is what we would call it. And we were both blown away with just her essence, this woman's essence, and just how, I mean, what she had been through and what she had accomplished. And at the time, it was right after the 2008 financial crisis. And so a lot of donations that had gone to organizations because people had had a lot of money were starting to dry up. And so, you know, they were getting less donations than they would have in the past because of, you know, it was a bad time globally, right? Yeah. So we filmed with her, and I still remember she was so sweet. And the funny thing was when we first got there, she was like, I don't have time for you. Like, basically, she was annoyed that we were there. She was doing it only because she knew it would help her organization. But like over the week or whatever, spending with her, you know, we got close. And so at the end, she said, you know, do you think I have a chance? Because there was a big monetary prize, right? And I think it was my partner who said, not only do you have a chance, you're going to win. And we're going to be back here in a year to film a documentary about you. And I think she did win.
Oh, okay.
She won. And then, I don't know if it was exactly a year that we were back, but they were starting a new thing called the Freedom Project, and it was, to get too in the weeds, it was a conversation. But essentially, we were back there along with other crew people and the actress to film with her. You know, so it was kind of serendipitous in a way that, like, I don't know where that information came from, but we were there and we filmed an hour-long documentary, you know, about her. So
how long did it take for her to like open up to you? And like, do you know like what it was where she was finally like, hey, you know what? I'll give Gina a chance here. You know, like,
I'd like to think it's just my stunning personality.
I mean, that was my guess, though. That's why I asked.
No, I don't know why. I mean, maybe because we were respectful of her and what her organization was doing. Maybe because we tried to be, I was taught by my partner there, you be as unobtrusive as possible. I learned so much from working with him. It's like, you be as unobtrusive as possible. You try to not exist in this scenario. You let them do their work. You observe their work from the camera perspective, but you want them to forget that the camera is there. You know, and so I think part of it was like a mutual respect, that we didn't get in her way. We didn't, you know, try to, like, you know, make her do things that weren't authentic,
Right.
things like that. And I think I firmly believe that, like, good people know good people. Like, good hearts recognize other good hearts. And I think, like, her heart, she's just an incredible person.
The way that you're, like, speaking about her. I mean, yeah.
So, I don't know. I don't know why we got, but she was just a very, very special human being, and still is.
Well, now that I've gotten you to
Yeah.
got emotional, I'll go to the, like, what are some of the bad projects that you had to take on?
Well, I don't know. Bad projects.
Or I shouldn't say, maybe more the drama field.
Well, I mean, I think there's always personalities that are always involved, and I think, I mean, hindsight is always 20/20, but different people have different objectives, right? And so sometimes those objectives clash. So there are personality conflicts. There are teams that don't gel together. There are teams that gel wonderfully together, but, you know, there are times when you're maybe partnered with somebody that you guys don't see eye to eye. Those are probably the more difficult projects, because you're both trying to achieve the same thing, but the visions you have for it are different, and that can create conflict, and then egos can get involved, because, I mean, it is a business that someone is in front of the television. So, you know,
egos are involved?
They can be. Now, there are some people that, you know, they don't have a big ego at all, and then there are some people that have.
That start a podcast.
No. So I don't know that I'd say there was, like, one specific thing, you know, but, I mean, there was a project that I worked on that was something that meant a lot to us that didn't get to see the light of day, and that probably was the most painful and disappointing.
I would imagine that would be very frustrating, like pouring, like, your
heart your
and
soul
into it, and then it just, like, never like leave the cutting room
and that's
floor.
one of those where they, you know, we thought we had a wonderful product. The people that were responsible for whether we could go forward didn't understand the product we have, and, you know,
that's a bummer.
Yeah, it was a bummer, but life goes on. You do what you can. I mean, my whole thing, I hope, when I was there, was I always tried to represent people. I mean, this is a thing. Journalists get, like, a really bad rap now in today's day and age. They're biased this way. They're biased that way. They're, you know, you can't make really anyone happy. You've got corporate involvement that, you know, wasn't there as much in the past. And the reality is most journalists are in that because they want to do good for the world, right? They want to do good to help people have a platform to be able to either tell their story or to shine light on something that needs to be exposed. I mean, you know, like,
I can relate.
Yeah. And so I think the majority of the people in our industry, or that industry, because I've kind of left that industry, majority of the people in that industry, honestly, are just trying to tell good people stories or advance something that is being hidden, or expose it so that it can be healed. And, you know, I think there's a lot of hate towards journalists now that is scary to me. And
so where do you think the disconnect is? So you have the people that are in front of the camera. They ostensibly.
Well, I mean, honestly, there's so many people that are into conspiracy theories these days. I don't know if it's the rise of social media. I don't know what it is. I mean, I think there are people that think, like, journalists are hiding things, or they're not telling the whole story, or they're, you know, and people get this in their heads, and then they might find, like, one piece of something and then post it all over social media. And it's like, when you're in part of an organization like I was, you have multiple layers of fact checking that you have to go through. And sometimes you might have that one piece of information that person put out on social media, but you can't find the absolute proof that that's true, even though you know it is, right? but you can't go through the hurdles that you have to go through to be a responsible journalist to make sure that that part can be included. And so sometimes that part has to be taken out because you can't definitively say that, yes, this is where that came from, and yes, I can verify that. And so what happens is somebody will get that piece of information on social media and say, see, they left this out. It's like, it's not that they left it out, it's that we couldn't get to the point where we could verify it so that our reputation could be on the line in order to be able to include it. And so I think some of that is the disconnect. And I had this old boss a long time ago who said, and I'll always remember it, he said, his name was Chris Kramer, and he said, trust arrives on foot, but it leaves on horseback. And it stuck with me for like it's still with me. Trust arrives on foot, but it leaves on horseback. And that's true. You can do everything right in journalism, everything right. But the second you make a mistake, or the second, there's something that, breaks the public trust, you're finished. That's it. That you've broken the trust. And so there's a lot of careful, sort of methodical layers that have to be gone through so that you don't lose that public trust. And so what has happened over time, I believe, is that, and this is just my opinion, I don't know this, now corporations are involved in news gathering. You see the whole Skydance Paramount merger, and there's some feelings on that. And so you have shareholders that are involved, not in the news, they're way over here. But they're involved in the sense that they know what their bottom line is and what they want. And so that may trickle down and impact the ability not to tell the truth, but the ability of the journalist to have the money, the time, the resources in order to better get at that story. And so it's just kind of like a snowball effect that has happened, combined with the onslaught of social media, where people are constantly questioning everything everyone does and what's their motive. That's my opinion. But, I could be wrong.
No, I think that there's definitely a lot there. With social media and the rise of like the kind of like the gotcha, and it's almost more of it's a team sport now, where you're like, oh, I'll watch Fox News because they're on my team. They're going to say what I want to hear, versus like going around to like MSNBC because I liberal. So if trust left on horseback, is there any way to get it back on a maybe automobile or something? Or
yeah, I don't think so. I think that's the thing why it's like it takes so long to build up the trust, and it leaves so quickly. And the thing I would also say, I don't want to disparage social media, because there are a lot of people that do digging on social media and find things that need to be exposed. And, and I really value, because they don't have the constraints that the major news organizations do, they sometimes can get things out there that otherwise wouldn't get out there. So I don't want to disparage citizen journalists at all, because I think they play an important role. And I think they are able, sometimes to get a message out when it otherwise wouldn't get out. And so I probably should say that, because I don't want to sound like there's just different constraints when you're part of a major organization, and then when you're a content creator or a citizen journalist. But they all have their place.
Yeah. I found it very interesting, I guess, the rise of independent journalism. So, and I guess it's kind of more of a statement to what you were saying earlier, that like once you lose the trust, it's gone. And I think for the most part, especially like a more mainstream news, I don't see much credibility just on social media, like seeing posts and stuff. It doesn't seem like people are like super duper like, oh, I'm going to be able to trust you. And so then it seems like now people are starting to go more towards the independent.
Well, and also I think that, and this is just my opinion again, I think news organizations were slow to, things move fast in technology, right? And so like as social media was, I believe that news organizations didn't really know how to meld with social media. They're catching up, but it's like we're moving away from linear television and appointment viewing of like you want to be at 6:30 at night for the nightly news. And so much of the model was built for that, right? And so that model doesn't really work anymore for younger people, for people who are completely technology driven. And so a lot of times it feels, I don't want to say this way, but it feels like things get out there quicker, through other means, because you just don't have the audience that you used to have. I mean, that's the reality. You don't have the same audience that you used to have. I mean, you do have the rise of streaming for news organizations and things, but it's also so fractured. I mean, I don't know, when you and I were growing up, maybe not you because you're younger than me, but there was like 5 channels.
Yeah.
There was 2, 5,
and
11.
One of those told you what was on all the other channels. 17,
36, 46, 69. Those were the channels that we had in our area. I mean, look at what you have now. You have hundreds of channels that you can get on streaming. You have multiple streaming services. There's so many streaming services. So you take
and
that
multiple podcast platforms. Please tune in to the Act Out podcast. Thank you.
But you're basically, the audience is still finite, right? And so that audience is getting fractured off to different segments. And so if you're not keeping up with all that, you're not going to be able to transmit that information in such a way that people continue to look to you for their source of information.
Notice that a lot. You're talking about how people are like, they don't consume news in the traditional manner in which they do. Most of it's social media, and where you're like scrolling and you have like 5 seconds. No, you have 2 seconds to get somebody's attention. So I think that now like a lot of the reporters are going in thinking like, I have got to get a soundbite out of this segment, because the only thing that's going to be heard is that soundbite on like a video or something on somebody's feed. And yeah, that's like cool and a little, it's like cool to see, but it doesn't advance any narratives. It doesn't like actually frame the issues in the way, that would be able to levy itself to discourse, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of opinions. I think there's a lot to unpack in what you just said, like different ways that different people go about things. Some people are just looking for the soundbite. Some people want to tell the story, and within that story, there's a really beautiful soundbite that they can pull out. There's some people that want to get ratings, money, advertising, all of that stuff is a thing. It's a thing.
Let's hope so.
It's a thing. So yes, if you're not getting the eyeballs, you're not getting the money. Right? So think about that in today's news landscape. They're still actively news gathering and doing everything else, but they're still trying to captivate an audience. And so, yes, a sensational soundbite might bring more eyeballs to your channel. Doesn't mean that it's not correct or, part of the news. So I don't know if that's really what you were getting at, but it's like, yes, there are probably some people that just go for that because they want the ratings. But I do believe that most journalists and even citizen journalists and traditional news organizations, most people are just trying to tell a story and get the story out there and, tell the truth. Most people. Some people are not, but most people.
What do you miss the most about being in the news business?
It's funny because mainly my friends, the people, because, and everybody knows this, when you change careers or you do something different and you have your goodbye party and everybody's like, they love you, you love them, but your life is changing. They're still going in that building every day or and there's only a finite amount of time in each day. So while you may love and care for each other very much, you're probably not going to see most of those people again. And these are people that you've had, for my case, daily relationships for 25 years, Still love them, but they're busy gathering the news, and I'm not part of that world anymore. So I miss that. I miss having access to all the information very early on about stories, like knowing when something happens immediately because of the wire services and things. It was a big adjustment when I left, and it's like, and your email gets cut off, and then you realize like, oh, I don't, like the information's gone. Like it's a really weird feeling. Like,
what was the biggest news story that you saw like from the wire? Like, oh my God, I cannot believe I get to see this before everybody else. Well, that has to be really cool.
Well, I mean, it wasn't a happy thing, but I mean, 9/11 would probably be the one that was the most imprinted in my brain.
Yeah.
That one was tough.
And was it just like a you know, like
Oh, when
first
it
tower
happened-
hit, or like what did you do you
No,
remember?
it's like I was putting my rundown together. It's like I had to have my as a producer, when you're a line producer, you have to build the show out, and then your supervisor has to approve it. And it was a really slow day. I remember that. Like, it was really slow. Summer is often very slow, and that was the end of summer for news for some reason. I guess everybody decides they don't want to do anything during the summer. Anyway. So I was complaining about not having enough to film my show, and then we looked up, and you have all the screens, and it took a while to figure out what was going on, but it was like immediately after the planes hit, like we had like, I don't know, the type of Avid or the server that we have where all the news basis, or I'm blanking on the name right now, all that's wrong, but basically the thing that our wires come in to the end. I just remember like yellow is something, you know, white is just normal, yellow is sort of important, orange is like, hey, and then red is like a flash, right? Like, so red is like the biggest news ever, and it's happening right now, and oh my God. And like, I just remember the screen, and every single one was red. Like, every single one of the wires things was red, and they were going off. It was like, oh my God, like, yeah, I mean, you knew something,
Right.
And it took a while to get weed through, because there was a lot of misinformation, not intentionally, but like, you know, people were panicked and stuff. So that's probably a day I won't ever forget. And I did know a lot before, you know.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be a downer, but
No, I was
that's just the one that
I think I was 14. I was about to turn 15. And a principal came into our class and was like, the World Trade Center just got hit. Like, you should turn on the TV. Like, that was a terrible announcement for a principal to do, but like that was the last thing that we did for the rest of the day, essentially. But watch news. What was, I guess, like really like the scary part for me was how much it had affected all the adults. You know, like the teachers and so, like people were very like solemn and stuff. And I remember trying to like joke, you know, like get somebody on. It was like, this is not the day. You know, like very quickly, you know, like shut up. Being from Cartersville, one of the concerns was that Georgia Power, which is like gives all the power for the Northwest Georgia area, is right around Cartersville. And people were concerned that like Cartersville was going to be next on the list. You know, like first they came from New York, number 2 is Cartersville. And I mean, that was like to the point where like all after school activities were canceled. And this kind of goes back to your thing where you don't know what information is like real or not, but like in that moment of panic, you kind of have to operate as if like, okay, this almost anything could be true here at this point.
I still remember just the eeriness of the silence of the air after, when all the ground stops had happened, because I don't know, we lived near a major international airport, and the silence of the air was something I don't think I'll forget, because there were no planes flying for what, a week, days, I don't remember how long. But it was just collectively eerie. I think the whole of the world just, you could feel that energy.
Yeah, no, that's...
I'm just bumming everybody out, Adam.
I don't want to say cool, but I guess it's a big responsibility to be in charge of like disseminating information at a time like that.
I wasn't in charge. I was just a line producer at the time.
Well, today you were in charge. Okay. Head of CNN, Gina.
No, and never aspired to be, let me just say. I always just aspired to tell good stories about people that deserve to have a story told. So
it seems like you were able to do that too.
I was sometimes, yeah. There were some really proud moments, like
Maiti Nepal sounds really awesome.
Yeah. That, and just, I mean, there are different ones, but when you're in a group and it's kind of like, you know, I think pilots and flight attendants have their, you know, little bubble, because nobody experiences life like them. Yeah. Journalists have their bubble. Doctors and nurses have their bubble. Like different groups.
I've seen Grey's Anatomy. I'm familiar.
Have their bubble. And, you know, it's like the military, when you go through things, and not that we go through things that the military goes through, but you're kind of bonded over, and ours is like news events that we're involved in covering, you know, like we have stories, all of us have stories about, not sleeping for days on end and, having to have something like make air and you're in the middle of nowhere with a began and you can't get a signal. And,
What is a began?
it's like a portable little satellite thing. It's like in a little suitcase. And so like you take that with you if you were going somewhere very remote in order to be able to transmit your piece.
Yeah, you were in Nepal. What other like remote areas were you in where you had the BGAD out?
Well, it's not necessarily just remote, but it's like if you don't have like power or things like it could be hurricane zones. It could be. I mean,
You do like natural.
I didn't do very many, but yeah, there were natural disasters that you cover. One I'm thinking about. We were in Yemen and had to use a beacon, and we couldn't find the signal to hit, and we weren't supposed to have a beacon there either. But anyway, that's another.
Yemen doesn't seem like a place where you'd want to like mess around and like not follow the rules.
I mean, you have a minder. You have a government minder that comes with
That's
you.
What they're called, a minder?
Yeah, well, we called them that. I don't know what they call them, government minder. There are certain countries you go to where the government assigns you someone. That,
yeah, that's a fancy way of saying spy, I guess.
So government minder, and then they are with you. They become your new best friend, and they're not really your friend at all. Yeah.
You said you had been in Yemen, and that kind of reminded me. You and your partner Fahad were working on it may have been another story about like trafficking or something. And was it Yemen where you were in the playgrounds?
So we were in Yemen, and we were doing a story because they had a problem with, not problem, but a child marriage, child brides. There was some significant aspects of that still occurring in Yemen. So we wanted to do a story with a former child bride that was willing to talk to us. And so my partner was like, and there's a local person that you work with that's called a fixer. So usually when you go into these countries, there's a local person that's a producer or works for a news organization or is used to like arranging things for people who come in that are foreigners that you hire. And you say, hey, can you get us X? And then they'll go find it and bring it, And so this particular case, it was, hey, my partner said, can you find us a really nice playground backdrop? I want to interview this, put her in front of the playground because I think that the symbolism of her being a child but not being able to have a childhood, blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah. There's a park right here. We were at the Movenpick in Sana. Oh, there's a park right here, Berlin Park. Okay. So we go and I don't know. It was just, there's one entrance and it was like a circle. And so we're going in and like, we noticed there's a bunch of men like in traditional dress because most people dress traditional there. And they got their phones out and they're talking and we're getting set up. And then there's more of them that come in and more of them that come in. And we're filming, and our security guy at one point says, we need, Gina, we need to go. You need to get them, and we need to go. And I'm like, okay, so I know they're going to be mad at me, so I have to, like, tell the camera person, like, hey, we got to go. I'm shooting. Just leave me alone. Like, and there's more of them coming in, and, like, we have to go, So then he saw, and we get our stuff, and we go to get out of there. And as we're leaving, our van with our driver pulls up, and somebody was tugging on our bag to hold us back as we were getting in the van. And it was a time when there was a lot of kidnapping of Western people. There weren't many people going there at the time. And so, it was a bit, I wouldn't say free for all, but, there's kind of, people needed money. So, there was a lot of kidnapping going on. And so we get in the van, and security guy is really upset, and he says to our fixer, and I don't want to say his name, but like, hey, did you know that looked like Al-Qaeda people at the time, Al-Qaeda, like Al-Qaeda. He's, oh yes, that's a known place where Al-Qaeda operatives position. And we're all just like, what? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, you asked for the best park. You didn't ask for the safest park. So, there's things like that. And the funny thing is, I love that guy so much. He's such a wonderful human being, he wasn't trying to do anything to us. It was just the language that, you asked for the best park. I got you the best park. You didn't ask me for the safest park. If you had asked me for the safest park, I would have taken you to the safest park. So there are things like that kind of get lost in translation that you remember fondly later. And at the time, our security guy went with his photos to the British embassy and confirmed that some of those people were indeed Al-Qaeda people, So, there's things. My mom probably wouldn't love to hear that. I mean, we did the story, yeah. We did the story.
My gosh. I've never been almost kidnapped by anyone.
I don't know that I don't want to make it sound like, they were pulling on us. I don't know if they were, but it appeared
like an attempt to kidnap
appeared
for sure.
to maybe be. I don't know for sure what they were trying to do.
Maybe
they just needed directions. I don't want to, sensationalize maybe they just want to know, hey, where you're from.
You were showing a remarkable amount of compassion for the attempted kidnappers, and I'm very proud of you.
Well, I don't know what their motives were, Adam. I find that most people, there's bad in the world, but most people are just trying to survive, or they're trying to, they have a belief system, and, I don't fit with that belief system. Or, in this particular case, I really believe at the time it was just the economy was dire, and Western people, if they were kidnapped, brought a lot of money, and you could feed your families. And so, it's sort of like we've done stories about families that have sold their children, and you say, how could you do that? And then you look at, how could you do that? Well, you have 10 children to feed, and you can't feed any of them. And you're selling this girl into indentured servitude so you can feed the other 9. It's horrible.
Right.
It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. But I don't believe, what I've really come to learn in my life is about judgment. It is not my place to judge. I may want to make the situation better, but I don't know what those people experienced, And so what we would do in that situation is we'd highlight a woman that was providing a solution for those people, who would give them a goat or a cow or something that could bring them financial reward if they would commit to letting their daughters go to school instead of being sold. So I think the way you change that is you find stories like that, because I think the worst thing you can do is do a story, woe is me, life is horrible, everything's bad, nothing to do. I mean, why don't we all just go kill ourselves? Essentially, if that's what you're going to present. So present a problem, but present a solution. And it may not be the best solution, but if you're able to say, here, this is happening, but here's what someone's doing to help that. That, to me, is more the responsibility of what we should be doing, because people will turn off otherwise.
Yeah. Well.
It's just too much for the psyche to handle. The psyche cannot handle, just horrible, horrible, horrible things without telling us what we can do because then your brain just, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't. I got my own family to feed. I've got my own life to live. I can't go there because it's just too depressing.
That's exactly why we're doing this.
Yeah.
We want to be that voice where people kind of say there's a lot going on, but actually I think there is something that maybe that we can do about it. And while it may not be the end all be all, we're going to defeat whatever it is, having something where it's hey, well, I can do this, and it's going to make maybe a little bit of a difference.
Right.
I think even just having that kind of control where you're I can do a little bit, it does wonders for your outlook.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing a lot of people miss is they're looking for the grand action and the grand gesture, and it's I can give, depending on my income, I give $15 a month to St. Jude because that's a great organization. I can afford that. You don't have to be a mega donor to something, or I can volunteer my time, to different places that are helping the homeless. Different things that you can do and do in your own community, you know, and food pantries, things like that. There's always something you can do, you know, but it doesn't have to be like, I think that's where we get caught up, is that we'll see these big headlines of something and it's like we don't feel that we're of that level, so we do nothing, you know?
Yes, very much so. Like you see something, you're like, well, oh my God, I need to solve world hunger. That's pretty difficult. It'd probably take me about 25 minutes or so, but like it's one of those things where you see it and you're like, I'm not going to be able to solve world hunger. Like, I'm not going to do anything. Mm-hmm. But if you have the mindset of, there's people in my community that are hungry, and I know the food bank here is a really good service. I've got, you know, like, I've got extra, like, cans of beans or something. Great diet. I can give that to my food bank. And while that's not solving world hunger, it's a positive step forward. And hopefully it's going to rally other people to do the same. Make a big impact.
Clean out your closet, donate to a women's shelter. You know, I mean, obviously, if they're clothes.
I don't think they would want my clothes.
They might, because they might have, you know, sons that are there with them. You never know.
I'm trying to make a joke, and then you come up with
sorry.
a real reason for it. Thanks a lot.
No, but you know what? One of the things I learned from some of the experiences that I had in getting my own life together. Mm-hmm. It's like, if I could just start every day and just say, how can I be of service to one person? And it sounds like hokey or whatever, but I have found, like, before I start my day or if I go out, like, how can I be of service? Just teach me, whoever you are. I don't know what I'm talking to, but like, help me be of service. If I can be of service to one person. And I find that in that day, something will happen where I am put in a position, and it's usually something very small. Mm-hmm. But, you know, that action creates another action, creates another action, creates another action. You never know what influence you're having on a person's day. Mm-hmm. It could be someone you know, it could be someone you've never met. You know, and then think about, like, if you help someone else's day go just a little bit better, maybe they help at home, their day goes better with their children. You just don't know. You don't know the effect that you have. And so if you start with that, you know, just, it's a simple thing, like, help me be of service today. If I could be of service to one person, help me be of service. And I find, you know, that works for me.
Yeah. I think that at least part of what it does is it's putting you in the mindset of, like, at the very beginning of your day of, like, I can help somebody out. And so you're going to be, like, looking for events more so.
I don't even think you look for it.
Subconsciously.
Yeah, subconsciously.
If it's a goal in your head, you're not going to, it's not going to be like, oh, how can I help? How can I help? How can I help? But it's already in the back of your brain. So if you see something and you're like, it's going to come a lot quicker than, you know, it would if you're starting the day by, like, listening to Limp Bizkit break stuff, you know? So now that you're not in the world of journalism, what are you doing?
It's been a journey, but I still a little uncomfortable to say because people judge you for it. But like I've always
safe space.
Safe space. I've always been told I was a healer, or, you know, had healing hands, things like that. And I have a very, very dear friend of mine that is an intuitive healer through Reiki and tarot reading. And she always told me, like, you know, you have this, you can do this. And I'd be like, nah, you know, I can't.
What is Reiki?
Reiki is a practice that originated in Japan. It's a series of symbols that are passed down from different Reiki masters that then you activate the energy. So it's about energy healing. And so it's like you don't actually touch the person. You scan their energy field. Okay. And I found that that's something I really enjoy, and I enjoy exploring. And so I am moving more into...
discover that they are like a Reiki?
A Reiki, no, like you take the... So there's Reiki level 1, there's Reiki level 2, there's Reiki master, then there's all these offshoots, Holy
there's
Fire,
Reiki master?
I am a Reiki master, Adam. I'm a Reiki master.
Actually, I felt something earlier, and I didn't want to say anything.
But I mean,
like,
that's
did
not...
you rake me earlier?
No, but that's not like it doesn't mean like, oh, a master, but it just means that you've learned and you've practiced enough to have the symbols to be able to then, if you so desired, to teach others.
What are some of these symbols?
Well, there's like the choku-rei, there's the seheike, there's the daikomyo, there's hanzenzo shanin, there's a bunch of symbols.
I think doko-rei is probably my favorite, followed closely by the schadenfreude.
But so I'm doing that, and it's a big jump from like a very logical, linear type of thought process where facts had to be shown to tarot reading and Reiki healing and crystals. But you know what? I love it.
So when someone comes to you, is there like is there kind of like a common thread almost where they're like, or is somebody like in a like maybe a transition period of their life? Like when is someone more likely to like want the services of a Reiki
Well, I
master?
mean, a Reiki person, like, so it would depend. A lot of people aren't in tune with their own energy. There's a lot of empaths walking around that are just absorbing everybody else's energy, and they're becoming sick or, unhealthy because they don't know how to set proper boundaries in energy space. And so sometimes you'll get people that, they've tried all the alternative ways of getting better. They still feel sick. Or some people are in tune and have read enough metaphysical stuff that they're like, oh, my energy's out of balance. I could use, a Reiki session. So it's different. I mean, when I first went, my experience, I had no idea what it was. Mm-hmm. I was going through something in my life at the time that was pretty traumatic for me. And I found this person that did Reiki healing, and I would go, and I would feel so much better emotionally after I left there. Like it was night and day difference, and I could feel the heat in the person's hands.
Right.
I mean, it was different, than traditional medicine. And I found that like a couple of those sessions with that person, I was in a much different place emotionally. And so it can also be used for physical things, but I mean, obviously, a good Reiki practitioner will not try to diagnose or do think that they'll send you to your doctor if they pick up anything like, hey, you should go see a doctor about this. But like, I've picked up with people like, oh, their forearm hurts. I wonder if they have had like a repetitive injury of and I'll ask them. It's like, yeah, I have tennis elbow. So you can put healing energy into that.
If you're like going over or something, like what is it where you're like, whoa,
it changes, so it's different for different people. Like you first you set your space, you protect your space, you protect yourself. You get you ask for the energy to flow, and you create the sacred place to do it. You don't just kind of like wander in and start.
I'm sorry, are you saying that beforehand? Is that to like protect you from their like with their energy?
There can be an energy exchange I will say most people who become Reiki practitioners are empathic people. I would say, I don't know if that's true, but that's what I've observed. So I will rephrase it. Most of the Reiki practitioners I know are empathic people. And so empathic people feel very deeply. They feel the emotions of others very deeply. And a lot of times they absorb the emotions of others. So as an empath, one of the things, and Judith Orloff is a wonderful person for teaching you about being an empath. If somebody's listening to this, and you need, like, what's an empath? Am I an empath? What do I do if I'm an empath? Judith Orloff is an amazing person. She's written multiple books. She's an MD.
Probably an empath.
She is. And she wrote the Empath Survival Guide and other books of that. So basically, yes, you want to learn to ground your energy daily if you're an empath, and you want to shield your energy. It's not a bad thing. It's just preventing the absorption of everybody, because you're basically an open channel, and you just suck it all in, and then that can make you sick. Or like I used to be at work and I wouldn't know, like I'd be feeling fine, and then I'd leave and I'd have a headache and be sad. Well, that wasn't my stuff. I had picked up somebody else's stuff. And after I learned how to ground and shield, it was like a self-discovery process for myself, that I then learned, like, wow, like this does work. you know, and wow, I like that, think I might, you know, be able to do this type of thing. So I learned from Sherry Brown, who was the woman who I first went to see, and she was the first person that I took Reiki from, and then, you know, but yeah, so when you scan the person, in answer to your question, like different practitioners will feel it different ways. So if I've set the space, I've activated the energy, I've done all of that. When I'm scanning the person, there will be places that feel different. Now, in each person, it's different. Like some people, I'll actually feel physical pain come into me when I'm on them. I will sometimes feel it in my body, like I'll feel heaviness on my heart. If their heart chakra is imbalanced, I'll feel, you know. And then sometimes I might just get sort of, like a knowing about certain things. But generally speaking, you scan their body, you know, and then at least three times before you actually start the work on them. And usually your hands will find the places that, you know, are out of balance. Even if they don't, if you're a proper Reiki practitioner and you intend for it to go, the Reiki energy goes where it needs to go for the person. It will always go where it needs to go for the person.
So if someone were to want a session, how would they find the right person for them? The right Reiki master.
So you could look locally and just see, you know, Google and see who's in your area. If you want to do an in-person session,
you can do virtual.
You can do distance Reiki. Yes.
Have you done that before?
I do distance Reiki most of the time.
How different is it from the in-person?
It's different in that, I mean, it's different because they're not there, but I mean, it's different it's not different in what you're doing.
Okay, yeah.
What you're doing is the same. It's just, I guess you have to have a better sort of concentration or intuitive, because you're doing it as if they're there. And I do it all the time as if they're there, because most of mine are distant sessions. But, you know, for someone new, if they wanted to do it in person, they want to, because that's a leap also for people who don't know Reiki, to then leap to distance Reiki. Like, what? You're going to do what? You're going to work on me and I'm not even there? I'm like, okay. No. So you could find somebody locally online. I would just make sure, you know, that they are a Reiki master, or Reiki 2 at least, and, you know, check out their reviews like you would and just see who feels right for you. I am in the process of starting my own Reiki and tarot and coaching business.
How can people find you then?
Eventually they can find me. Hopefully maybe by this time this airs, I'll have the website up and running. But my website is going to be spiritualinsightwisdom.com. www.spiritualinsightwisdom.com. And so I'm in the process of, it's just really weird because the life I had to now the life it's very different. And I had to get over, when I first was doing it, I had a website and I had a fake name.
Okay.
Right?
What was your?
It was like Thea was what I went by, because I was like, I don't want, people are going to judge me. They're going to think I'm weird. They're going to think I'm crazy.
I'm judging you for your name. You could have come up with so much better than
No, it's actually a really...
When you call me? I would have come up with something amazing.
Well, I know you would have.
So,
but I was so scared of people finding out that's what I was doing. And then as I went along the path, it's like, no, I have to be me. I mean, if I'm really going to do this, then I need to be like, hey, everybody, I don't care what you think. This is what I'm doing, and I'm helping people. And so I've kind of evolved that I will, you know, have my real name on the website and stuff. So, but it's a process, right, of getting comfortable, because it's not a traditional profession. And I mean, honestly, when you're going, you couldn't be more different than what I'm coming from.
Right.
Like something literally fact-based and that can be verified, to something that people may or may not think is real, or, you know, I know it's real. I know it works. And so do the people in my world. But, you know, it's when you're telling people that knew you from your other life, you know, like, you're doing what now? Oh, you're one of those? Oh, So I was afraid of that for a while, and then I was
What
like,
do you think was the impetus for your kind of change from the fact-based to more of the...
Well, I always had been interested in metaphysics, even as a little kid. Like I was a little weirdo, Adam. I was a little weirdo. Like I made a Kirlian photography device for my science fair project, which is an aura-taking photography device in the 6th and 7th grade, right? And I read Edgar Cayce when I was in 6th grade. I mean, I was doing things. So there was always sort of a component, but I never thought that I could do any of that, right? I just lived vicariously through all these people. And then what I found out through people like Judith Orloff, Sherry Brown, Rachel Thompson, who's the Reiki practitioner on Reiki Rachel YouTube, who's phenomenal. If you're not able to get to a Reiki person, she has a lot of free stuff on her website. How did I go from that? It's just I learned from Judith Orloff that everyone has the capacity to be intuitive. It's not some special thing for one person, like you're some, you're up here and everybody. No, everybody has it, but it's just like a muscle. Like if you're going to work out a muscle, you're going to have to work it out. You're going to have to go to the gym. You're going to have to practice. You're going to have to...
So that's what's going wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's
and it's
good
the
to
same
figure
with
out.
intuition.
Yeah.
We all are born with the innate ability to use our intuition. I mean, have you ever been like somewhere and it just was like, this doesn't feel good. This place, I need to not be here. Like I need to leave, or I should take a different way home today. You don't know why, but something tells you to take a different way home. Or you just feel like, I need to go home. Like you just don't know why. Suddenly, and there'll usually be a reason. That was your intuition. Your intuition was activated. You just didn't call it that. So everybody has that capacity. But the people who become, it involves study. It involves work. I've been studying for the better part of 2 years with different psychic teachers and mediumship teachers and tarot readers. I mean, I read tarot my whole life, just played around with it. But like when I realized this might be something I really want to do, then you have to put in the work, just like anything else. And so that's when I sort of it was an evolution.
Yeah.
Leaving CNN and then having like these 2 years to kind of, disconnect and evaluate and what do I really want and what do I really want to do. And I want to help people. And I also want to like what I'm doing when I'm helping people. And so these things kind of came together for me. And it just seemed like, okay, I'll try it. And it was really scary.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you think, I must be crazy, if I'm seeing that this lady, needs to do X, Y, and Z, and then you call them, and then they tell you yes, and then you're like, oh. And that just kept happening. I kept getting the confirmation from people that I was practicing on with friends and family, Yeah. And so then, I invested and, took courses and got the certifications, and, that helps your confidence. And then you're around people who are studying just like you and who are learning just like you. And so it does seem like a strange jump, but when I look back on my life and the things I was interested in as a kid, I was always interested in this. So maybe somewhere inside of me, I was always, and I would go to a palm reader at 5 years old in the Kiwanis Fair, and she'd say,
never do that. I'd catch a demon spirit. Are you kidding me?
She'd be like, "You have healing hands," and I was like, "Oh, she must have thought I should have been a doctor, and I didn't become a doctor, so she was wrong." It's like, but you can have healing hands and just be there for someone. You know what I mean? Like it's so in my case, it translated late in life to becoming a Reiki master and launching a business to help others through Reiki and tarot and intuitive counseling.
For a really long time, I thought I was a bit of a Nostradamus, but turns out I was more of a Nostradamus.
No, Adam. Say what you will, but there's that statement, laughter is medicine, and it is, because it raises the person's vibration. I'm all about vibrations, Adam. So you raise people's vibration, it's a good thing. So, we're all just trying to do the best we can with what we got,
And you know what? I'd say we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gina, thank you so much for acting out with me.
Pleasure.